So what are Wagner troops up to now in Belarus? Let's ask former CIA Moscow Station Chief Dan Hoffman and Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. They both join us now. You guys are the A-team on this subject. I want to go to Dan first. We'll talk about Belarus, what's happening there with the general in a second. But Dan, Putin is an old KGB hand. He's got spies all over the country. Why didn't he see this coming last week?
Well, that's a major question to be asked. It's another intelligence failure. You know, first, Vladimir Putin failed accurately to assess the will and the capacity of Ukraine to fight and withstand Russia's brutal invasion. He underestimated President Zelensky, and then he overestimated his own troops, his own army, which was absolutely not ready to fight in Ukraine. In this case, it's possible that Russian intelligence had collected some of this information about a potential mutiny, but that they either were complicit with Prigozhin and didn't want to share it up the chain of command, or perhaps they were afraid to do so because the last thing anybody wants to do is tell Putin what he needs to know when it's not what he wants to hear. That's the culture that not just Vladimir Putin, but all of his predecessors, going back to the czars, have established firmly.
General, what is happening with those forces in Belarus? There were some people, by the way, I used the word ruse at the end of Bella because that's the name of the capital. It's also a question of whether the whole thing was a ruse, because you look at where the Wagner forces were going. They were going up to Moscow. Then they took a sharp left. And apparently some of their forces are now in Belarus, right on top of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. Could it all have been a ruse to get them better position?
No, I don't think so at all. I think the fact of the matter is this was a coup that nearly worked. And in fact, I think everybody kind of pulled their punches at the last minute, because I think Prigozhin realized he didn't have the support of the generals. You know, look right now, David, what's happening. Well, you don't find Gerasimov, who's their equivalent of General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He's nowhere to be found right now. And that is, I think, because he didn't anticipate and didn't figure out what was happening. The Wagner Group is a very competent military force, very capable. It's led by a guy, they're actually ground commander, a guy named Dmitry Utkin, who's actually, that's where Wagner comes from. That was his call sign years ago. It's a battle-hardened organization. And I think what happened is they got called off at the last minute. If they had been able to cross the Oka River Bridge, got into Moscow, there was nobody there to defend Moscow. It was only National Guard troops, and they would have overwhelmed them. Wow. They don't need to take the city of Moscow. They also had to take the Ministry of Defense and get everybody to evacuate. But by them moving actually to the west and going towards Belarus and setting a formation up there, that should give Ukraine a pause, because that is a competent military force. Do I think Ukraine can handle it? Of course they can. But it could open another front. But I think this was not a ruse at all. I think this was an example of somebody overstretching, realizing they had gone too far.
But it is dangerous, the fact that they're right on top of right on top of Ukraine right now. Dan, how does all of this, what's happened in the past week, change Putin's strategic plans, not only for Ukraine, but for the rest of Eastern Europe?
Well, I think, look, Vladimir Putin has lost his arguably most effective fighting force in Wagner. He also has to take his own security services and vet all those Wagner guys, all the mercenaries, because they're all guilty now of a mutiny until proven otherwise. And so the idea of allowing them to coalesce as some fighting force in Belarus, I'm not quite sure we're going to see that. We might see them reintegrated into units in the army down the road. But this is going to be a major challenge for Putin. He's got to be looking over his shoulder. There's blood in the water. And the question is whether this failed mutiny by a guy like Prigozhin, who had no experience in the military or in the intelligence service. I mean, he started off as a hot dog salesman after the Soviet Union collapsed. But imagine if it was someone a little bit more competent. This could be, or could have been, a dress rehearsal for something more serious.
All right. And very quickly, General, how does Ukraine take advantage of all this?
By continuing to push the offensive as hard as they can. The Russian military is in disarray. Their senior commander, Gerasimov, is off the battlefield right now. So they've got some major problems. They are fighting a defensive fight, which is an advantage to them. But Ukraine should continue the offensive and continue to push as hard as they can, because there's going to be gaps. And as Dan said, there's weakness in the military. It's showing, and especially in the command and control echelons, not only the military, but Putin as well.
General, Dan, the best of the best. Thank you both for being here today. I appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.